market validation. And I'm one of the speakers, so I'm also a co-founder of Manatex company, and I will be speaking today in the second half of the webinar. But our guest today, who is actually a big specialist in market validation, also a startup advisor, is professor of Rotterdam School of Management, Professor Pourya Darni-Hamidani. So his research interest is market validation, internationalization of startups, and I'm certain that he has a lot of insights. He did a lot of research in this area, and he will share a lot of interesting information. So thank you, Pourya. So you can start.
Okay, thanks a lot, Nadia, for nice presentation of myself. Nice introduction, and also good pronunciation of my family name. It's a difficult one, I know, but yeah, but nicely done. Let me share my screen. Give me a second. I think you see my screen now.
Absolutely, yes.
Very good. Okay, yeah, welcome everyone. Good to see you all, or at least seeing your name. I do not see any faces, especially when you share a screen on Microsoft Teams. You only see one person in the corner, so it's yeah. So if you have any questions or comments, please put it on the chat. I think you have access to the chat, but our moderator can also open your mic if needed, and you can ask your question. But for now, feel free to put your questions and comments on the chat. Really appreciate your presence here. I am Dr. Pourya Darni-Hamidani. I'm a lecturer and researcher at Rotterdam School of Management in the field of entrepreneurship and strategic management. Startups and scale-ups are my passion. I really like them. Also small medium enterprises, SMEs. So this fight between David and Goliath, we like to support David in this fight. So startups are more like David to us. So the underdog that takes on large established companies that are not very innovative anymore, at least sometimes. So I do research and I teach entrepreneurship, but I also provide advisory or consulting to startups, SMEs, and scale-ups on their growth paths. And in this path, market validation is a very important step. We constantly talk about it with startups. It's a very important step. Let's dive into our slides. What is market validation? So, as I said, market validation is a critical step for startups and SMEs to really see if there is market for their product, for their idea, for the opportunity. So you have to doubt your idea, to doubt the product a lot, and question it, question the main assumptions. And market validation is really about that. So market validation helps to really confirm there is customer for your idea, for your product, without committing too many resources to the idea, to the product. So it's about efficient resource allocation, and it's also about confirming that there is actual market demand for your idea. It's not only your family, friends, and fools that buy your product. There is potential, there is mass potential for your idea. So I think that's a very important step for startups and SMEs that want to grow and want to succeed in the market. So it's really about a comprehensive assessment of market viability. It's really also about understanding and a very well understanding of customer needs. So a deep understanding of customer needs. And it helps also the strategic decisions. It helps other activities of startups that I explained later. So the objectives of this workshop, briefly, I take the first bullet point, talking about startups and SMEs and bringing the knowledge and tools needed for effective market validation. And I will also talk about a couple of examples, but I look at Nadia to talk about examples, more examples from her vast experience. So she has done several assignments across the globe on market validation, international market validation. So she's really informed on this and can tell you interesting stories. Yeah, so as I said, market validation is important because it can minimize the risk of failure. You make sure that there is actual demand for your idea. It also saves resources and of course increase the likelihood of success. A good example is Spotify, before launching their solution, they studied the market very well, music streaming, online music streaming market. So back in, I think 2005, 6 or so, they did a lot of market validation. If you remember, the music streaming market was a difficult market. A lot of illegal downloads and solutions in the gray zone were there. Napster, if you remember. So Spotify decided to enter this market, and they really had to validate the idea, the business model, whether it works. So what are the customer preferences, understanding the main players in the market, the main competitors. So they did this very well, and as you can see, the results are massive success. And market validation, if you look at several research papers, they emphasize the importance of market validation role. So to reduce failure, especially for startups, but also for scale-ups and securing funding. So I will talk about the importance of market validation briefly on stakeholder management and building reputation, but market validation can provide evidence of future success, and it helps to convince investors because they want this evidence. They might trust you a little bit as the entrepreneur, or perhaps not, but they want data and facts that the idea is actually a viable idea. So it helps to secure funding as well. So let's talk briefly about a roadmap for market validation, the steps. I also keep an eye on the time. Yeah, so there are a few steps. The first step is about doing market research, and that's usually the start. Market research starts with desk research, understanding the market size, what is the target market, and these are mainly, so you make assumptions and you try to validate these assumptions about the market, and you do also customer analysis through surveys and interviews. And a prime example is Booking.com in the Netherlands. We all know Booking.com, very successful in terms of studying their customers. So these are the first couple of steps. Yeah, I would like to ask Nadia briefly if you have some suggestions, or what do you think of these steps and the importance of these steps, and then I again take over the floor.
Okay, Thank you so much for the question. Well, I've been working as an international business development consultant since 7 years. So after I finalized my corporate career, and I think that small companies very often don't understand that this step is critically important. So why? Let me speak the language of math. So if you have a circle, you cannot put a circle into the rectangle. You have to make an oval out of circle. To understand what is needed on some specific market, the company has to provide market research. Just a brief example: the company producing dietary supplements wants to start exporting in a different part of Europe, so from the United Kingdom to Poland. So the first question is, can we actually be profitable on this market? How much margin these Polish distributors might want? So to discover it, before you start looking for a partner, you need to get to answer these questions. You have to get these answers. So you have to find one who will go there and ask these distributors, what do they expect? So this has to be done before you're actually looking for some local representatives. So this is critically important from my experience, and the companies who do that, they are much, much more successful. So they understand, okay, there is no market for me, so I don't spend resources, I don't spend time, I don't go. So it's go or no go, and it has to be actually solved on this stage before you are trying to sell everything everywhere and like to everyone. So
Okay, thanks a lot, Nadia, for your
mhm.
insights. Let me continue with the steps. So customer analysis. So we start, as we said, we start with desk research. That's easy, doing some searches and trying to find reports or data online. But then customer analysis, you go deeper through first-hand data. So you try to collect data that is suitable for your startup, for your SME, the solution you want to provide. So online data, desk research provides some like generic sort of information, but usually it's not sufficient. Usually you need to design surveys, you need to conduct interviews, and even sometimes you need to run some experiments. And as I said, booking.com, through A/B testing, through surveys, short surveys, or interviewing customers, they constantly validate their ideas or changes they make to their website. So it's really an interesting example of market validation. You also need to analyze the competition. So who are the competitors? What do they provide? What is their value proposition? What is their revenue model? What are their channels? What is their focus or niche market? Strengths and weaknesses. So I think competition analysis can also help you to understand the market very well, and what solutions are provided and what are the gaps in the market. And toward the end, you collect all this data, all this information. Of course, you need to analyze the data, and you need to analyze their behavior. And BlaBlaCar is a good example. They collected massive information, massive data on their customers, how they interact with their website, with their app, and so all this information about their behavior can help you to also understand, even for startups, right? Even for startups that have a few customers. For example, with app providers, I always suggest them to really see how customers are those who install the app, using the app, how they basically interact with your app, which parts they spend more time, which parts they don't like and spend less time. And then at the end, with a focus on product market fit, providing actionable recommendations. So what are the next steps for market validation? That's very important. A few tools to kickstart your market validation. I think you are all familiar with some of these tools like Forms. Most of these tools are free to use, or at least they have a free version. So SurveyMonkey, for example, to collect data or run surveys, online surveys. They have a free version, so they have a freemium model. Google Trends, so you look at the market trends and consumer interests. Google Forms, you can collect data through free forms. So you have type forms and Google Forms. And Google Form, the advantage is that it can be integrated much easier with the G Suite. So that's the advantage. You have also other tools like Google Analytics, customer behavior data on your website, so web traffic, conversion rates. Zotero for market research, collecting and sharing research articles. SEMrush, those who are in SEO, they are familiar with SEMrush, useful for competitor analysis. They, I think, have a very limited free version, but for the premium part, they provide a lot of insights. There are other possibilities. So if you conduct interviews, for example, within the startup world or for SMEs, interviews are, if you want deep information compared to surveys, interviews are advantageous. And after recording and transcribing the interviews, you can use Atlas TI, especially now that they have this AI part integrated. Atlas TI is useful to analyze the interviews and extract information. MailChimp is similar to SurveyMonkey, free version to send out emails and manage emails. Qualtrics for running surveys. I use it myself. It's free for us in the university, so it's also very useful tool. And ChatGPT, everyone can use it for coming up with questions, coming up with insights, etc. Of course, you cannot fully trust the data and information provided, but it's of course very useful tool for idea generation and validation. And toward the end, I would like to share a few the end of my talk, and then I give the floor to Nadia. I would like to share some tips and tricks for now. I think validation never stops. So you always validate. In the beginning, you validate the idea, but later on, you validate your product, you validate the business model. It's an ongoing process until you really have certainty that you have product market fit. But then even when you enter into international markets, again, you are back to the drawing board. You need to start validating. So validation never stops. So curiosity and doubts, they are your friends here. You can validate many things, but the focus should be on key assumptions, riskiest assumptions when you validate. Validation helps with stakeholder management and building legitimacy. So I talked about investors and funders, but when you validate the market, you talk to customers, so you get to know them a little bit, so you warm up these contacts, but you also talk to other partners. So building your network, it can be very helpful. Usually product market fit is the goal, to really make sure that you can sell the product. Your product is sellable, the business model is validated. It's tricky. I can talk about it later if there's time. Many entrepreneurs feel that or have the impression that they have the product market fit, but in reality, it's much more tricky. And approaching people and asking them to help you with validating, interviewing them, sending them survey, might find it difficult, so we might shy away from it. But it's not as difficult as you think. People are usually ready to help you with that, and mostly perhaps with no costs. So these are the points that I would like to share with you. Looking at the time, I think my time is up, so I give the floor back to Nadia. And if there are questions, please put it in the slides. So I stop sharing the screen.
Okay, Priya, thank you so much for the wonderful talk.
You're welcome.
So do you see my screen now?
Yes, I see your screen. If you put it on the presentation mode, yeah.
Okay, thanks a million for your help. Let me briefly introduce myself. Also, again, my name is Nadia Mamet. Some of you know me, and I'm a co-founder of this company, Manatex. This is a startup itself. And as I mentioned, I've been working in sales, marketing, and consulting since 20 years. And I'm also working as a guest lecturer, so guest professor in a number of recognizable French educational business institutions. So I represent sort of both sides, business and academia. So I want to also share today my learnings that I got from like both sides. So why on earth we decided to speak about relationships and trust today? So in this market validation webinar. This is mostly because, you know, the process of internationalization. So actually, when the small companies want to get abroad, they have to really think on how to work with their contacts with their relationships, because small companies are not corporations. They cannot establish a subsidiary, bring expatriates. They cannot hire local management in any country. So all this modern research very well demonstrates that its social capital in this case becomes really critical, you know. So someone whom you know on the ground. And to build this relationship, one has to really deeply think about personal trust. So actually, the question is here, can you sell without trust? Sometimes yes. For example, when the company is selling something at a very, very low price, maybe it's possible. Maybe it's possible to do it one time, two times, ship a couple of containers. But at the end of the day, if someone wants to make this stable export, build distribution in a certain country, like personal trust is critical. So researchers actually confirm it, and there is a famous commitment trust theory of relationship marketing, which was developed 30 years back. And this theory actually from the academia side fully confirms that without trust, there is no commitment. What does it mean? Translating into business language from academia, I would say there is no sales deal. So you cannot really sign stable deal if there is no commitment. That's why trust is critical. So what is trust? So if we speak about trust, then you know there are a lot of different definitions, but one which I find like really close to my understanding is that this is psychological safety. When you trust someone, you're ready to engage in some relationships. And trust has a few elements actually, and these are, for example, the ability to deliver some result. So if you promise something, you should deliver it. Then someone will trust you. Personal integrity. So if your business partner is catching you with a lie, so most probably the trust will be damaged or destroyed. And also benevolence. So these three elements of trust are really important. At this moment, I have a question to you, Poria. Can you please tell me, so since you are a specialist in the startup world, you know, how startups actually approach this trust building approach? So how do they do this? How do they approach this trust building element in their relationships with the stakeholders?
Yeah. So startups in the beginning are not known in their own environment, right? So what we call liability of newness. So they suffer from liability of newness. They are new, nobody knows them, nobody trusts them, right? So that's their, of course, if you are a famous entrepreneur who starts a business, a new business, then it's different, right? So your name, your brand is behind the startup. But usually startups are started by entrepreneurs who are not known. They are. It could be that you have some industry experience, of course, and that helps to build trust. But the startup itself, in the beginning, trust is usually a major issue. What do they do? I think they try to build their network with their customers. So they engage with their stakeholders, right? So they talk, they show their demo, they show their product. They try to warm up the contact with their stakeholders. These stakeholders are investors, are customers, partners, government. So you have multiple stakeholders. Um, so I think that's how they try to. But then, so over time, when people see like uh, persistence of startups, high quality work, they start to trust startups and their brand. So their brand is more known, and that's what we call legitimacy. So they build this reputation over time, and they need to constantly work on this reputation, right? So in order for people to trust them, and they have in different stages of the life cycle. Um, they have so their stakeholders have different expectations, and of course new stakeholders join. Again, building trust and legitimacy is difficult, is should be taken care of. So that's in one sentence. I don't want to make it very long, but it's a complex task, and it requires a lot of attention by startups and scale-ups.
Okay, thank you so much. From my experience, you know, companies very often don't realize it. So they don't realize, also don't see the difference between a good salesperson and a bad one. So, and my experience is 20 years of working in sales and marketing shows that it's actually the ability of building trust is the critical element that differentiates a good sales guy or girl so from a bad one. So my next question is, so for myself, so is it an easy task when we live in a multicultural world? Because we here speak about internationalization. So we live in the global world with many languages, many nations, different cultures, different religions, etc. So the obvious response is no, it's not. It's a really hard task. I had a lot of different examples. Of course, I cannot mention them all during this short webinar, but just let me share one recent one from my personal consulting practice. I was introducing a company working for automotive industry from one of the Baltic countries to a person, like actually one of my contacts in Japan. So we had an online meeting, and it seemed to be quite positive one. And after this meeting, my contact, actually the Japanese person, told me, have you noticed that this top management, top director of this company had a black t-shirt? I said, no, okay, so what's that? What's bad with that? He told, if they show up like that in the distributor's office in Japan, then distributor will decide that the production site is dirty. So for me, I spent 3 years in a Japanese company in Sony Corporations and never heard about it before. And it was like a sort of discovery that like small elements of culture can damage trust. We don't trust them because they have black t-shirts. So it's really hard to build trust even because of these like small elements. So researchers actually differentiate at this moment 2 different ways of building trust, depends on the culture. So one is task-based, and it prevails in the Western cultures like Anglo-Saxon cultures, Netherlands, Denmark, Germany, Australia, and it's called also from the head. It means that someone trusts you as a counterpart if you are able to deliver the task, and especially deliver it in time. In other countries, relationship-based approach is much, much more important. You cannot do anything in the country like Saudi Arabia if you are not able to build the relationships. In India also, I always tell my students, if you come to India, if you start your meeting with a presentation trying to push your product, you're already lost. You can leave. Because in India, it's critically important to show that you are a human being, who you are first. Okay, so transactional trust is actually one from the head, which I just mentioned. So it means that someone was mad. So I trust you because, as I just mentioned, you deliver the result. This is just an example. So of me delivering some market research project to a South African British company working for supplements industry. So I collaborate with this company since a couple of years, and they fully trust me, and we have an amazing relationship. But I never been even 1 minute late with a meeting, even 1 day late with an assignment. So I know that for this culture, it's really important. So affective trust, on the other hand, is, with the representatives of some other cultures. It's another example. So when I was a leader of a business mission of businessmen from Palestine, so when actually representatives of small enterprises producing shoes, and I spent 8 days with them in Moscow and Almaty years ago. And at the end of the day, we had amazing contact, amazing relationship with them, because they discovered who I am as a person, what kind of family I have, so what is my hobby, do I like some specific food, and they like to share this experience, eating dinners and so on. I have seen also when a company from Eastern Europe, actually a wonderful producer of high-end arm prosthetics, of the AI-powered solutions for people who don't have arms. Amazing technologies. They try to penetrate the market of Saudi Arabia and fully failed because both sides couldn't establish trust. And maybe this was mainly because they never met in person. So it was really critical, and because they met only online. So the elements of trust from cognitive trust, as I mentioned, it's integrity and some competency, and dimensions of trust from the heart is mainly relationships and intuition. So can you trust this person intuitively? Can you build a relationship with this person? So there is also one more way of building trust that some researchers differentiate as I would say it's a part of trust from the heart. Yeah, so which is called in group, when we trust someone because this person belongs to our origin, so the same country, or maybe the same university, or maybe the same company. So you can see it when, for example, graduates of the same business school form a company or hire the graduates from the same business school. It's not only because it's how alumni relationship department is working. It's also because they say, okay, we know that this business school delivers the knowledge, so we're hiring only from this business school. Or I trust only representatives of my culture because we work also with the people of this culture. For example, in France, some diasporas are very strong, as some of you know maybe. So in some other countries as well. So I think I'm done also with my presentation. You can ask questions. Also, you are very much welcome to approach my business partner or myself if you have some questions. So you could see this these telephone numbers. Thank you so much.
Great. If there are questions, you can also raise your hand. I think it's possible, or you can also put it in the chat.
Okay.
Sajjad, yes.
Mahdiar, can you please, I can block someone, yes. Maybe it's not possible, I don't know.
I think it's, you have access, Sajjad. I think if you unmute yourself.
It's probably not possible.
Yeah.
Hi.
Okay.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the presentation. It was really enlightening, and I really appreciate how much knowledge you put into this 40-minute talk. My question is actually, do we have a kind of framework to monitor the changes in the market demand when it comes to market validation? Because sometimes we start a project, start to develop a product with a specific market in mind, and after a while you witness a shift in the market from the perspective of what they need, how they interact with that specific product and stuff like that. So what are your suggestions to monitor that kind of shifts in the perspective that would affect the market fit and market validation?
Shall I take this, or Nadia, you would like to take it?
Yeah, I think it's your question. So
yeah, I have to think, but usually you can monitor the trends. So, for example, with a tool like Google Trends, you can monitor the trends and see if there are changes to the sentiment or the need. And you have more like more tools than Google Trends. So there are possibilities to really see more or less live what are the trends. There's another website, I think, called Exploding Topics. But yeah, Exploding Topics, the hottest new trends. explodingtopics.com. So there are possibilities for sure to really see if the trends are aligned with your expectation, and if it's changing, yeah, how does it influence? How does the change influence your business model? I think that's the main question. Do you need to also, is it a big change or not? Do you need to pivot? Do you need to strategically change your direction? I think these are the questions I mean, it depends on the specific situation. So if it's a big change to the business model of your startup, then you need to respond, of course. And again, you need to validate, right? So every major change you make to the business model, you need to validate it, because you are completely redesigning the business model. Then again, it's about validation. So you need to see what are the riskiest assumptions you have with the new business model, and validate those assumptions. So I think that would be my answer. I don't know if you would like to add to it, Nadia, or
No,
not, but
I think you answered really complete. I would say it was complete. So, do you have other questions, perhaps?
I will share the Exploding Topics website with you, Sajjad. Yeah, perhaps you already found it, but it's an interesting website. They also, I mean, it's again freemium, so the free version is quite limited, but you also can see what startups, what topics, depending on different categories, and what kind of companies in what sectors they are growing, at least in the online search or on similar metrics.
Great, thank you so much. Still some questions remain to how to pivot your business when you're in the middle of, let's say, development or entering a market. I think that's a totally different topic than what we are talking right now, but I really appreciate it. So we need to kind of always rework and keep in mind that there is no definite point of job done. So we always have to keep an open eye to trends and pivot the product and the approach we have as the new things come up.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Because yes, because when you as you just mentioned, we live in this special time when nothing is certain and everything can happen at any time. So maybe 50 years ago it was different. At this moment, yes, we have to be flexible and react as soon as we have some certain issue, but we have to be ready. To be ready, yes, we have to keep an eye on what's going on the market. Also, since we speak about this expansion, international expansion, then it's always like terra incognita. Any new market you start, even, I know the examples when the company like penetrated the market of Portuguese from Spain, and these are two different, two very close markets, I'm sorry. And still the company like hired a huge team of researchers to understand the local consumer needs. So one has to be digitally savvy at this moment, has to really understand how to work with the trends and numbers and consumers. So
yeah, Nadia, I just wanted to add, to have my point of view on the question of Sajjad, and I believe that it's really considers, the overall economic intelligence and the market intelligence. And if you are really interested in this, topic, I invite you to search online for the tools for the market intelligence or economic intelligence. You can find those tools. They are not, free, but this is the topic that is really interesting to keep you, above these trends and keep you informed, and not only keep you informed to, take the measures with the trends, but also to have your own influence on the market. And they give you a lot of, different tools, and so that you can share, and follow some topics on different social medias. Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, and also on my side, I think the question you asked, Sajjad, on pivoting, it's Yeah, it's painful. But it's sometimes necessary, right? I would say if you do a very good market validation in the beginning, deep, in-depth interviews and good survey, hopefully the need for pivoting is less. So you are less likely to do pivoting, which is also kind of costly, but sometimes it's really inevitable. So you really have to pivot because things changed. For example, when COVID-19 hit startups, a lot of them, for example, in the tourism or traveling industry, they had to pivot. They did not see this. So, but yeah, as you said, if you are in the middle of designing and coding and then, the really building things, pivoting is not easy. And it's also, yeah, we probably need another session for that, but I think this is definitely an interesting topic.
Okay, so if there's any other questions, so please just kindly let us know.
No
Okay,
questions?
so if there's no more questions, then I have to say that we are really grateful for that you joined. So thank you for being our guests. Please follow our page in LinkedIn, and we will announce more educational events and share our knowledge that we collected with our experience. So we are always glad to do this. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks a lot, Nadia and Mahdia, for the opportunity.
Oh, Banyu,
Really,
thank you so much. I really appreciate it.